In 1756, the people of Virginia lived in fear. A year earlier, General Edward Braddock had marched against the French and Indians on the colony's western frontier. Braddock had been overwhelmed, and now Virginians faced invasion. The Reverend Samuel Davies summoned them to battle, lest Indian savages and French papists, infamous all the world over for treachery and tyranny, should rule Protestants and Britons with a rod of iron. Virginians, Davies was sure, would never give up their freedom. "Can you bear the thought," he asked them, "that slavery should clank her chain in this land of liberty?" British troops turned back the French, and Virginia was spared enslavement to papists and savages. Yet in that land of liberty, even as Davies spoke, 2/5 of all the people were, in fact, already enslaved, under the iron rule of masters who were Protestants and Britons. 20 years later, the people of Virginia were again in peril. The mother country, having saved them from the French, now herself threatened to reduce them to slavery through the devious method of parliamentary taxation. With the other English colonies in America, they sprang to arms to determine, as Edmund Pendleton put it, whether we shall be slaves. George Washington, who had helped to fight off enslavement to papists, prepared to fight again and grieved that the once happy and peaceful plains of America are either to be drenched with blood or inhabited by slaves. It was, he thought, a sad alternative. But, he asked, can a virtuous man hesitate in his choice? Washington led his countrymen in arms, while another Virginian led them in a Declaration of Independence that founded the American Republic. The starting point of that document, the premise on which it rested, was that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with inalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. At the time when Thomas Jefferson wrote those words, he was personally depriving nearly 200 men, women, and children of their liberty. When he died, on the 50th anniversary of his great declaration, he still owned slaves, probably more than 200. When Washington faced his sad alternative, the happy and peaceful plains of Virginia had been inhabited by slaves for more than a century, and 135 of them belonged to him. When he died, he was master of 277. The seeming inconsistency, not to say hypocrisy, of slaveholders devoting themselves to freedom was not peculiar to Davies or to Jefferson or Washington, nor was it peculiar to Virginia. The men who came together to found the independent United States, dedicated to freedom and equality, either held slaves or were willing to join hands with those who did. None of them felt entirely comfortable about the fact, but neither did they feel responsible for it. Most of them had inherited both their slaves and their attachment to freedom from an earlier generation, and they knew that the two were not unconnected. The rise of liberty and equality in America had been accompanied by the rise of slavery. That two such seemingly contradictory developments were taking place simultaneously over a long period of time, from the 17th century to the 19th, is the central paradox of American history. For the historian, it poses a challenge to probe the connection, to explain how a people could have developed the dedication to human liberty and dignity exhibited by the leaders of the American Revolution, and at the same time have developed and maintained a system of labor that denied human liberty and dignity every hour of the day. The connection between American slavery and freedom is evident at many levels if we care to see it. Think for a moment of the traditional American insistence on freedom of the seas. Free ships make free goods was the cardinal doctrine of American foreign policy in the Revolutionary era. But the goods for which the United States demanded freedom were produced in very large measure by slave labor. The irony is more than semantic. American reliance on slave labor must be viewed in the context of the American struggle for a separate and equal station among the nations of the earth.